The Enemy at the Gates. The story of the film begins with a young child named Vasily and with him his great-grandfather who teaches him to use the sniper with great skill. And they are in a cold Russian region, where the grandfather put his horse and tie so that the wolf comes towards him and then they aim at the wolf so that Vasily kills the wolf. The little one was hesitant, frightened and could not kill the wolf. And the wolf eats the horse. Now we move to 1942, at the time of the start of World War II. We see Vasily as a young man who was part of the Russian army and was one of the soldiers who went to face the Nazi German army. The Russian army is traveling by train to the city where the Germans are located. Meanwhile, soldiers are removing women and children from the train. The other soldiers board the train. Meanwhile, the German forces had been able to occupy Europe completely under the leadership of Hitler, and took all the oil resources that were in Europe. Its next target was the state of Russia. And the problem facing Hitler is the city of Stalingrad. The German army wanted to enter and take control of it. Meanwhile, all the soldiers arrive in your city, Stalingrad. The Russian commanders gave an order not to withdraw and they told them if you wanted to escape, your friends would kill you. There is no escape from death. The only escape is to overcome the German enemy. Russian officers transport soldiers by boat to take them to the other side. The place where the war takes place and the Germans are present. Russian soldiers watch the river that is full of Russian corpses and their hearts are filled with fear of the terrifying cradle. As they cross to the other end, German planes come to hit them with bombs and bullets. The planes were able to kill many soldiers and sink many boats. Luckily Vasily managed to cross to the other side. Other boats also crossed after being lucky. When they reached the other side, the Russian officers gave the soldiers weapons of war. But there was a shortage of weapons, so the officers issued a decision that one weapon should be for 2 people. They told the soldiers to kill the Germans and get their weapons, in which case the Russian soldiers would be able to get weapons for everyone. Unfortunately for Vasily, he only gets the ammunition and the other's friend gets the weapon. He must now kill a German soldier in order to get a weapon. So the soldiers go to the places of battle, and they are told by the officers not to withdraw, and if a person withdraws, he will be executed by the Russian army. The officer gives the signal to attack and the soldiers attack the German soldiers. The German forces hit them with bombs and weapons, and the Russian army was an easy target for them. Meanwhile, Vasily's friend is killed, and Vasily tries to take a friend's weapon, but another person comes and pushes Vasily and takes the weapon. Vasily was without weapons, and in the meantime, the Russian soldiers saw the Germans controlling the fighting, so they decided to withdraw to their places. During their return, their officers killed them because they left the battle and returned. And whoever remains has killed the Germans. After the battle ended, the German forces took control. Stalingrad is littered with the corpses of Russians, and birds eat dead bodies. Meanwhile, a speeding car comes and German soldiers shoot at it to stop it. But the car overturns and a Russian comes out. His name is Danilov, who was in charge of the Russian army newspaper. He got out of the car before the German forces reached him, and he put himself among the Russian corpses in order to delude the German army that he was dead. When the German forces arrived, they set fire to all the corpses so that no one would spare them alive. Fortunately, Danilov was not hit by any bullets. He started vomiting because of the stench of the dead bodies. Danilov began to crawl from his position, and then he saw a German officer taking a shower. So he took a gun from the corpses and decided to kill the officer. Danilov is surprised that a Russian is alive. This person was Vasily, who prevented Danilov from killing the officer and told him that if he killed him now, the German forces would hear the sound of bullets and come back towards us. He tells him to wait until a missile hits so that they don't hear the sound of gunfire. Danilov shoots, but the gun was without bullets, so Vasily takes it and puts the bullets he took at the beginning of the battle. Vasily gives the gun to Danilov, but Danilov is hesitant and worried that the German army will hear the sound of the shot. Danilov returned the gun to Vasily and told him to take charge of killing the German officer. So Vasily takes the gun, but he sees a car coming and there is the protection of the German commander. And they were 4 soldiers with the commander, bringing their number to 5 people. Vasily aimed at the commander, and when he heard the sound of the missile, he killed the commander. No one heard the sound of the bullet, so he killed another person after hearing the sound of a missile. But one of them saw Vasily, so he falls down and throws a bomb at them. But Vasily's reaction was faster, so he killed another and killed the person before throwing the grenade. The last person remains, so he tries to run away in order to tell the others. But Vasily stands and aims at him and kills him. When Danilov saw him, he was impressed by him, so he recognized him. They resisted by returning to the headquarters of the Russian army. So Danilov wrote an article in the newspaper and put Vasily's name in it. It was written that Vasily broke the helmets of 4 German German soldiers and the helmet of a German commander. Vasily was proud of what he did for his state. Meanwhile, civilians try to board boats to cross to the other side of the river because the other side has become a battlefield. But the Russian soldiers prevent them from crossing, and then someone comes to represent the leader Stalin. Khrushchev was angry with the commander because of the dispatch of Russian soldiers and their killing by the Germans. Khrushchev tells the commander that if Stalin knows what he did to the soldiers, he will execute him, and advises him to kill himself with a pistol before Stalin kills him in the worst way. And when Khrushchev comes out of the commander's room, the soldiers hear a shot, and they know that the commander killed himself. Khrushchev asks the officers to tell him an idea to raise the morale of the Russian soldiers to fight the Nazi Germans before occupying the city of Stalingrad. Danilov tells Khrushchev that we must encourage and support the soldiers and promote the Russian soldiers who fought bravely. In this way, the morale of the soldiers will be raised. Khrushchev likes the idea and decides to implement it. Meanwhile, Danilov returns to the military printing press and he publishes an article about Vasily and the method of killing the Germans with all accuracy and skill. Danilov goes to Vasily to tell him that he has become the head of the committee and tells him that you have become the sniper of the military division. Vasily and Danilov were overjoyed at their new positions. After that, Vasily's story was published in the newspapers, and all the newspapers started talking about Vasily's heroics and how he killed 33 Germans. He is the one who forced the resignation of 13 German commanders. Having spread the name of Vasily, Vasily is aiming for a German commander, and he was ready to kill the commander, but suddenly a child appears and confuses Vasily and prevents him from killing the commander. And here we get to know this child, whose name is Sasha. He is a Russian child and admires Vasily's heroics. Sasha takes Vasily to his house and Sasha's mother receives him. She expresses her admiration for Vasily's heroics. Meanwhile, there is a knock on the door of the house, so Sashi's mother turns off the light and Vasily hides. But it was Danilov's friend who knew he was here and came to him. He told him that the miners had sent him letters and asked him to write his name after theirs. While Vasily was writing letters, a beautiful girl named Tanya entered them, and her mission was to protect civilians from German soldiers. When Danilov saw the girl for the first time, he liked her. But Tanya admired Vasily and his heroic story. Tanya was Sasha's family's neighbors, and she had studied German and was fluent in it. We move on to the German army, which had sent its invitation to the most skilled sniper in existence, and his name was Quinn. When he arrives, the commander of the German military headquarters meets him and informs him that there is a Russian sniper who killed many of our troops, and tells him that he must get rid of him as soon as possible and kill him, and the German sniper proceeds with his mission. And the news spreads that a German sniper has killed 5 Russian soldiers with high accuracy and skill. Meanwhile, Vasily is asleep and his friend wakes him up, and his experience that there was a problem occurred in the storage place. She tells him that we have to go out and solve this problem. Vasily goes out with 2 people to solve the problem. Vasily watches a person sleeping behind the window, so he aims at him and goes with his friend to watch him. Their other friend remains below, but when they arrive, they see that it was not a person, but a puppet. It turns out that it was an ambush for them, and their friend, who stayed below, was killed by the German sniper. Vasily sees a cigarette in the ground and knows that someone else is present. Meanwhile, German planes come and drop bombs and missiles on the city of Stalingrad. Vasily's companion starts to get scared and starts running, but the sniper manages to kill her skillfully. Vasily stayed in the building under the German bombing. We now go to Quinn and he watches the newspaper, and the child Sasha cleans his shoes. He gives the newspaper to Sachi and asks him to translate it for him. Sashi translates the newspaper from Russian into German. The written was Vasily's proficiency in sniper and his high skill. Sasha tells Quinn that he is in love with a fan of Vasily and that he has met him. Meanwhile, Vasily moves to the military headquarters where Danilov is, and he gets acquainted with a soldier named Kelikov. This soldier learned sniper from the German sniper Quinn. He was one of his students at the sniper school. Vasily meets Danilov and tells him that the 2 soldiers who were with him have been killed. He tells him that the sniper who was facing him was moving and was not fixed in one place and could not identify his location. Danilov tells Vasily that the sniper he encountered is Germany's most skilled sniper, named Quinn. And he tells him that he knows everything about you and has come specifically to kill you. Vasily wears a suit to attend a party specially prepared for him. The party was prepared to tell others about Vasily's skill in hunting. Tanya comes to meet him and tells him that she is sure he will be able to kill the German sniper. Vasily goes to the party and everyone starts to take pictures of him and encourage him. The next day, Vasily dreams of the wolf killing the horse, as it cannot kill him. Kelikov wakes up Vasily and tells him that he saw an undercover sniper and they go to see what is going on. When they arrived, it became clear to them that it was an ambush, and they quickly exited the building, and during their exit, the German soldiers started throwing arrows at them. Fortunately, none of them was injured. Vasily cut the communication wire to prevent the Germans from calling to bring them support. And they start moving from one place to another, and they see a German soldier trying to fix the compliance wire, so Kiklov kills him. A soldier comes to tell the sniper Quinn and tells him that they managed to capture one of the Russian soldiers. He begins by asking him about Vasily's whereabouts, and the Russian soldier tells him that Vasily is a person who is moving and not fixed in a place. He refuses to give them a clear answer and tells them that he does not know where Vasily is. Quinn takes advantage of the matter and gives him the clothes of a German soldier and sends him to fix the communication wire. Unfortunately, Kelikov kills him because he thinks he is a German soldier. Meanwhile, they wanted to change their place and wanted to make sure that Quinn was not there, so they made a plan. So he raised his helmet for Quinn to snipe it and to know his location. But Quinn did not aim, so they thought that he did not exist, and when he tried to jump to the other place, Quinn managed to kill Kiklov and Vasily managed to cross. Vasily returns to headquarters and tells Danilov that he cannot kill Quinn because he is more skilled than he is. But Danilov encourages him and tells him that he will gather all the information about the German sniper Quinn. Vasily agrees to Danilov's proposal. Danilov tells Vasily to go to Tanya and tell her that Danilov likes her. Vasily goes to Tanya and talks about Danilov's courage and tells her that he likes her, so he asks, was he the one who told you that? He tells her that he did not tell him and that he thinks so. So Tanya started telling him about her family's story and how the Germans killed her family. She told him that 3 weeks ago, a list of Germans had come and it contained the names of German civilians, and she told him that among these names was her family, and tell him that the Germans had sent them by train, and when the train crossed 30 kilometers, the Germans stopped them, tied them up, and then killed them. Meanwhile, Quinn gives Sasha sweets and asks him to tell him about Vasily, his movements, and everything related to him. Quinn goes to the place, removes the doll, takes her place, and waits for Vasily. Vasily tells his companion to know that Quinn is waiting for him in the iron corridor. But Vasily changes his place and goes through the ventilation tubes. Quinn hears a sound in the pipes and waits for them to come out of the ventilation shaft. When they get out, Quinn hits the soldier, and Vasily hides behind an existing engine, and his gun falls from it, and tells the wounded soldier to return to headquarters. He tries to retrieve his weapon by tying a rope to a knife and throwing it at the weapon. He draws the weapon, but Quinn snipes the rope and a piece. German army planes come and bomb the place, and glass falls everywhere in the building. One of the mirrors reflects Vasily's image, so Quinn can watch him. In the meantime, the injured soldier comes to the headquarters and tells Tanya about what happened, so Danilov watches her and the way she cares about the question about Vasily, so Tanya goes to Vasily through the ventilation pipes, and during her exit Vasily warns her. And through the mirror Quinn watches Vasily talking, so he knows that someone is present. And he came from the place of the pipes. Vasily tells Tanya about Quinn's whereabouts and asks her to take a mirror and reflect the light on him. Indeed, she does what Vasily asked of her, and she reflects the light on Quinn, so Vasily takes his weapon and shoots him with his hand. And they return to the headquarters and quarreled because Vasily was able to aim a shot at Quinn for the first time. Meanwhile, Vasily sits with Tanya to convince her that Danilov is a nice person and that she should marry him. Meanwhile, Sasha is with Danilov and gives him news about Quinn. Danilov asks Sasha if he has seen Tanya, and Sasha tells him that he has seen her with Vasily. So he told him to go to Vasily and tell him that tomorrow all the snipers will gather in the airfield. Vasily meets Danilov and asks him not to write anything about him in the newspapers because he wants to fight like other soldiers. Danilov tells Vasily that he is no ordinary fighter, but a skilled sniper, and that the other soldiers' spirits rise when they hear of your heroics. Danilov asks Vasily if he spoke to Tanya about it, and Vasily tells him that he spoke to her and that he did not know her decision yet. Danilov tells Vasily that if Tanya marries him, she will live happily ever after. Danilov introduces Sasha to Vasily and tells him that he is the one who wipes Quinn's shoes. Sasha tells Vasily that when he wipes Quinn's shoes, he sees yellow dirt on it. And this dirt is only found in the chemical factory. And he told him that he was bringing news to him, but Vasily was angry with Danilov because of his exploitation and endangerment of the child, and in the meantime, Sasha leads Vasily to the chemical factory that Quinn comes to. Vasily hides among the corpses, waiting for Quinn, but after the time has passed, he falls asleep and Vasily falls asleep. Quinn moves in front of Vasily and was in his own goal, but Vasily was asleep. In the meantime, the German soldiers begin to attack the city, and one of the German soldiers was taking the soldiers' wallets, and Quinn watches Vasily among the corpses and tries to kill him, but the soldier stands in front of Vasily and blocks his view. German forces capture the thief. The commander summons Quinn and tells him that he failed the mission. He told him that they had found his wallet and that Vasily had been killed. He told him that there was a plane waiting for him to return to Berlin. The Russian commander becomes intolerant when he sees the news of Vasily's death. Danilov comes and tells him that Vasily is not dead, but the commander tells him that the army's morale will drop when they hear of Vasily's death, and that Danilov should publish his latest picture of Vasily and publish it in the newspaper. Danilov tells Tanya that Vasily will not return to headquarters, and she asks him why, but he does not tell her. He did not tell her that Vasily had spread the news of his death, and she told him that when the German bombing ended, Vasily would be able to return, and in the meantime, Tanya hears the news of Vasily's death through German headphones. Quinn went to Sasha to clean his shoes. And Sasha was crying because of Vasily's death. Quinn tells Sasha that Vasily is not dead and is still alive. He told him that he appreciated Sasha's feeling of grief because he was also Russian. He tells him that he will wait in front of the train and that he must stay at home and not tell anyone. At night, Vasily came to Danilov and told him that he was asleep and did not see Quinn because he was asleep. He watches Sasha sitting with Danilov and tells him that Quinn is waiting for him at the train station tomorrow. Before dawn, Vasily went to the train station and saw Tanya there, and asked her how she knew he was coming here, so she told him that she knew through Sasha. She tells him that she knew he was alive and not dead. Meanwhile, Danilov has been watching Vasily and Tanya and gets nervous because he knows that they are in a relationship. So he went back to the newspaper headquarters and started writing about Vasily and attacking him and saying that Vasily is a rebellious and traitorous person and it took a long time and he did not kill Quinn. Sasha goes to the train station to check on Vasily, but Quinn was waiting for him, so he takes him and tells him that he was an informer for the Russian forces. Tanya watches through binoculars Sasha, who is hanging, killed, with a terrifying view. They knew that Quinn had killed him because he knew he was a spy and was passing information on to Vasily. Tanya was furious and tried to take the sniper in order to kill Quinn, but Vasily stops her and promises that he will kill Quinn. Meanwhile, the German soldiers arrived in the middle of the city, and the soldiers went to Sasha's mother to ask her to ride the boat and cross to the other side, and she told them that she would not go until Sasha came. So Danilov tells her that Sasha has betrayed Russia and joined the German army, and they did not tell her that he had died. During their escape, a missile hits Tanya, and the doctor tells her that she is dead. She takes her with her in the boat so that the hospital machine can transfer her and write to Sasha a message that she is at the other end. Meanwhile, Danilov goes to Vasily, who was waiting for Quinn at the train station. Danilov tells Vasily that Tanya has been killed, and Vasily weeps over her. Danilov helped Vasily find out where Quinn was when he made him kill him. Quinn thought he had killed Vasily and went downstairs to make sure, but he was surprised that on the other side, he saw Vasily aiming at him, so Quinn prepared for death and saluted him for his courage and skill, so Vasily kills him, and Vasily takes Quinn's weapon and places it on Danilov's body in honor of his courage. After 2 months have passed, the Russian army defeats the German army, and surprisingly, when Tanya is alive, Vasily comes to her to the hospital, and the Russian army honors Vasily and puts his weapon in the Stalingrad Museum. This was the end of the movie, which was based on a true story.